Throughout recorded history, empires have been forged and crumbled. Nations that were once powerful and influential became mere tales in schoolbooks, and many of these aren't even part of our collective memory. At the same time, and in sharp contrast to the rise and fall of countless civilizations, very few can trace their roots back to ancient times, thousands upon thousands of years ago. One of the civilizations that can make such a claim, and still possesses a living cultural ethos, passed on over millennia, is the Chinese one. Their rich history can be traced back over 5,000 years, making it the oldest continuous civilization in all of human history. A land of emperors and revolutions, poetry and gunpowder, struggle and resurgence. In this video, we'll follow the arc of Chinese history from the dawn of the Qing Dynasty to the creation of the People's Republic, which set the stage for the evolution of the Chinese nation into the global superpower it is today. This is a tale of resilience, reinvention, the shaping of a nation, and the strengthening of its people. In 1644, China was at a pivotal moment in its long history. After more than 250 years of rule, the Ming Dynasty was in decline, immersed in internal conflicts, peasant revolts, and a massive fiscal crisis. In April of that year, Li Zicheng, leader of a rural uprising, captured Beijing, scattering dynastic forces. However, his victory was short-lived, and not long after, a former Ming general named Wu Songwei forged an alliance with the Manchus, a nomadic people from the northeast led by the Qing clan. This alliance defeated Li Zicheng decisively at the Battle of Shanghai, and taking advantage of the power vacuum, the Qings began taking lands for themselves. They eventually captured Beijing, where Prince Dogon proclaimed the start of the Qing dynasty, the last dynastic family to rule over China. Ruling over such a large empire, where competing interests were often amplified because of tribal rifts and the socio-cultural nuances of different regions, was no easy task. Aware of this, and understanding a need to establish their legitimacy, Qing leaders maintained much of the administrative bureaucracy left by the Ming, while at the same time respecting Confucian ritualistic traditions, which were the norm. Furthermore, the Qing dynasty began fusing Manchu culture with that of the Han, the empire's largest ethnic group. This created a sense of unity the nation had never seen before, and many Han citizens were placed in positions of power. This proved to be a brilliant strategic move, both politically and militarily. Consolidating its power in the decades following their takeover, the Qing dynasty ushered in over a century of prosperity. Known as the High Qing, at the height of its rule, China experienced a cultural renaissance and territorial expansion, incorporating provinces like Taiwan, Mongolia, and Xinjiang, thus tripling the size of the empire and boosting its population to over 430 million people. Under emperors like Kangxi and Qianlong, Qing China not only expanded its population and territory, but stabilized its borders and saw a flourishing of culture, science, and philosophy, alongside other societal improvements in infrastructure, irrigation, and trade. But it wasn't all glory. As the 19th century approached, the dynasty became bloated and inflexible. Internal corruption, growing inequality, pressure from the masses, and external forces set the stage for their eventual downfall. Like any government, the Qing dynasty faced many challenges, both internal and external, the sum of which was the end of dynastic rule and the creation of a republic. In 1795, under Emperor Qianlong, China was the biggest and most populous empire on Earth. In this context, the nation was self-sufficient and had little interest in trade with European countries. This led countries like the United States, Russia, France, and Great Britain to pressure the Chinese with their large naval fleets, seeking to allow goods like tea, silk, and spices to be exported through the port of Canton. Western pressure unleashed a series of events known as the Century of Humiliation, which in the end led to the opening up of China's ports through coercion, something many historians see as an expression of colonialism. The infamous Opium Wars are clear examples of this. Facing a trade deficit with China, which had little interest in Western products in exchange for the much sought-after goods of the empire, The United Kingdom began smuggling opium from India into China, seeking to literally destroy Chinese society from within. In order to defend its territorial integrity and social stability, the empire's reaction to this sabotage eventually led to the Opium Wars. The first fought between 1839 and 1842, and the second between 1856 and 1860, when France allied with the UK against the Chinese. Besides external conflicts with European powers, the Qing also faced internal strife that significantly contributed to their eventual downfall. The most important of these was undoubtedly the Taiping Rebellion, led by Hong Xiuquan, a self-proclaimed messiah who believed himself to be the brother of Jesus Christ and sought to transform China into a Christian nation. The revolt lasted from 1850 to 1864 and cost over 20 million Chinese lives. The Boxer Uprising was another crucial factor in the Qing dynasty's decline. After their defeat in the brief but important First Sino-Japanese War, which was fought mainly over dominion of the Korean Peninsula between 1894 and 1895, nationalist elements inside the empire sought to expel all foreigners from captured Chinese lands, as well as merchants and missionaries within their borders. Empress Dowager Cixi backed the insurrection and sought to reverse the many unfavorable concessions the Chinese were forced to agree to by European powers. This resulted in the creation of an alliance of 8 nations against China: the United States, Italy, Japan, Russia, France, Great Britain, and the Austro-Hungarian Empire. The combined military might of 8 countries proved to be too much for imperial forces, and the Qing suffered yet another devastating blow. By the start of the 20th century, after decades of conflict and constant pressure from foreign powers, the empire was severely weakened and its people hungry and exhausted by the administrative and societal inefficiencies that come with war. The masses turned their collective anger towards the Qing, who were humiliated and with a fragile hold on power. In 1911, the Wuchang Rebellion inspired a series of other uprisings against imperial forces. Shortly thereafter, in February of 1912, and at the age of 6, Emperor Puyi abdicated the throne, paving the way for a new era in China's history. The end of the Qing dynasty, and of dynastic rule altogether, was a pivotal moment for China, one closely linked to internal strife and external meddling and aggression. As we will come to see, these factors heavily influenced Chinese identity and foreign politics in both the 20th and 21st centuries. It would be impossible to explore the historical period known as the Republican era without beginning the journey by getting to know Sun Yat-sen, the father of modern China, and undoubtedly the most significant figure of that time. Sun Yat-sen was born in a village in Guangdong province and received a traditional Chinese education early on. However, at the age of 17, influenced by his father and following in the footsteps of other family members, Sun Yat-sen moved to Hawaii, where as a student he was exposed to Western thought and Christianity, profoundly transforming his worldview. Specifically, Sun Yat-sen became deeply interested in Republican and democratic ideals which formed the basis of his political and philosophical thinking, leading him to become increasingly critical of the Qing dynasty, its corruption and inefficiency. Inspired by these ideals, and despite living abroad, Sun Yat-sen founded democratic movements aimed at ending the dynasty and transforming China into a republic. These included the Society for Chinese Regeneration, founded in Hawaii in 1894, and the Tongmenghui, founded in Japan in 1905. The Tongmenghui created an alliance among various anti-imperialist groups and became the precursor of the Kuomintang, the Nationalist Party, which we will explore in more depth in subsequent chapters. In 1911, during the Wuchang Uprising that eventually ended the empire, Sun Yat-sen was still abroad but quickly returned to his country when the Qing dynasty officially ceded power. Shortly after his return, on January 1st, 1912, Sun Yat-sen was elected the provisional president of the newly declared Republic of China. His term was brief, as he chose to step down in favor of installing a powerful former Qing military leader, Yuan Shikai, ensuring a more peaceful and stable transition of power. Nevertheless, Sun Yat-sen remained an influential figure in Chinese politics, his political and philosophical vision profoundly impacting the nation's history, solidifying his status as the father of modern China. Sun Yat-sen's political philosophy can be summarized in three principles: nationalism, democracy, and the people's welfare. The first principle advocated for China's national sovereignty, the end of foreign domination over Chinese territories, and internal fragmentation. The principle of democracy promoted a republican government with democratic institutions and civil liberties. Finally, the principle of people's welfare focused on social well-being, economic progress, and the equal distribution of resources, including land. This philosophical foundation established by Sun Yat-sen guided many actions and decisions made by the leaders of the Republic and continues to influence Chinese political thought to this day. President Yuan Shikai quickly proved his vision for the Republic of China was incompatible with the foundations outlined by Sun Yat-sen. Soon after becoming president, Shikai began consolidating power and implementing an autocratic government, eventually leading to a dictatorship characterized by internal conflicts. Yuan Shikai's death in 1916 did little to relieve the country's fragmentation. Rather, it initiated the historical period known as the Warlord Era. During this era, China was essentially divided into territories controlled by powerful military leaders who took advantage of the power vacuum left by Shikai's death. This fragmented configuration persisted until China's reunification in 1928. Throughout the Warlord Era, China again faced foreign greed, intrigue, and militarism, as European powers and the United States sought to exploit and dominate Chinese territories. Since the Qing dynasty, foreign interference in Chinese affairs had a profound impact on the nation's trajectory, affecting not only the Qing, but all subsequent governments. In 1919, at the end of World War I, the Treaty of Versailles was signed, dealing another malicious blow to China by European powers, the United States, and Japan. In order to support Allied efforts, China declared war against Germany in 1917. Germany's defeat was important to the young Republic of China, as Berlin had controlled the strategically significant Shandong Peninsula since 1898, part of concessions to foreigners made by the Qing dynasty. During World War I, Japan invaded Shandong and officially retained control of the province after the Treaty of Versailles, facilitated by Japan's greater international influence and secret negotiations with France, Italy, and Britain. This was seen by the Chinese people as a significant betrayal and violation of their right to self-determination. Not surprisingly, the reaction within China was outrage. On May 4, 1919, a massive student protest in Beijing against the treaty sparked a broader movement for democratization and modernization, known as the May 4th movement. The Republic of China did not sign the Treaty of Versailles, and Shandong remained in Japanese hands until 1922. However, the damage was done, fueling latent nationalist sentiments and profoundly impacting Chinese political consciousness. Scars left by repeated foreign interference and hostility dating back to the Qing dynasty and continuing into modern times fostered the growth of nationalist and other political ideologies, notably communism. The Chinese Communist Party, founded in Shanghai in 1921, played a crucial role in China's subsequent historical arc and is the backbone of the global superpower we see China as today. At that time, the country remained fragmented under the control of warlords. The nationalist movement sought reunification, and despite emerging conflicts, formed an alliance with the communists known as the First United Front, supported indirectly by the Soviet Union. The alliance embarked on the Northern Expedition, a military campaign against the Beiyang government and the warlords. The nationalists eventually gained control over most of China, establishing a government in Nanjing led by Chiang Kai-shek, effectively ending the fragile alliance with the Communist Party. In 1927, following communist-led labor protests, Kai-shek secretly ordered a purge of leftist factions in Shanghai, leading to a massacre of over 5,000 people, initiating the Chinese Civil War. The Chinese Civil War was fought between 1927 and 1949 by nationalist Kuomintang forces and the Communist Party, with a brief pause during World War II. The war exposed the systemic corruption and weaknesses of the Kai-shek government, severely undermining its legitimacy. Hostilities paused briefly from 1937 to 1945 to fight the Japanese invasion during the Second Sino-Japanese War. Japan's repeated conflicts with China, beginning with the First Sino-Japanese War in 1894 through 1895, were significant. The brutal occupation of Nanjing in 1937, known as the Nanjing Massacre, was particularly horrific, causing the death of around 300,000 people, mostly civilians. Well-documented unspeakable atrocities were committed against Chinese citizens during the massacre. The Second United Front between the nationalists and communists, along with Allied support, eventually defeated the Japanese in 1945, restarting the Civil War. However, corruption, nepotism, and systemic structural inefficiencies within the Kuomintang led to its eventual downfall. With superior military organization and broad popular support, the Communist Party under Mao Zedong secured victory, establishing the People's Republic of China in 1949. In the second installment of our series on the history of China, we will analyze Chinese history from 1949 up to the present day through a comprehensive lens. We hope you have enjoyed today's video, and if so, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and turn on notifications for our channel to stay tuned to all our weekly content. Thanks so much for watching.